Are you a parent who's concerned about boundaries when you're trying to deal with your child's substance use? I know this can be an issue for many parents and it can be so challenging. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video, about boundaries and consequences, and just sharing some ideas that maybe you may find helpful. So hi, I'm Cathy Tombaugh. I'm a parent coach and I work with parents who are concerned about their children's drug or alcohol use. One of the first ideas is to have a clear consequence that you've thought of ahead of time. You really want to be calm and balanced when you're thinking of consequences and coming up with things that might work. And so you don't want to really wait until you're in the heat of the moment to be coming up with the rules and boundaries that you think you need to put into place. So one idea that's really great is to brainstorm with your child, to sit down together and to talk with them and come up with some things together that could be helpful. I know this has worked for many parents, and it doesn't mean you have to support things that you're not comfortable with, but it's a great time to listen to your child, have them tell you what they feel would be helpful and what they can agree with. And with both of you working together, I think this is going to be a good way to come up with some fair boundaries and expectations. And then the second one is to communicate between parents. So whether you're married, divorced, or there's a partner in the situation, whatever your situation is, it's important that you're giving the same message to your child. There's nothing worse than a child who thinks that they can work through boundaries or consequences because they sense there's a weak link in the parenting that's going on. So you really want to work with your spouse or partner. A great thing is to, you can try different boundaries and consequences and see what works, but, talk through ahead of time, be a united front, and that's really the best way to go about it. And I think the thing also to make sure is that your spouse is really on board. I had a parent one time they were withholding the car from their son because they just felt he was driving high, and this just really wasn't such a great thing to do. And one parent was really for the consequence and thought it was a good idea and really needed to happen. And then a week later, the other parent gave in and kind of caved and let the child use the car. And so as you can imagine, this child's getting really mixed messages and know that he can go to one parent and really get what he wants. And this is not so helpful. So again, you need to present a united front. And then the third one, which I think is so important, is consistent, reliable follow through. And this is hard for all of us who are dealing with substance use. I mean, there's so much stress with the whole issue, but this is a problem that can really happen where you set a boundary and then the behavior happens. And then you decide, oh, I really don't think I want to use this boundary. I really, this is a different day. It's going to be different today than it was when we talked about this. Not helpful. What you really need to do is, if you set a boundary, you need to really be 100% sure that you're going to follow through and that your spouse or partner is also going to follow through. It is just giving your child a mixed message when you don't. It's letting them feel like they're really the ones in control, not you, and that's not a great feeling. And it's just confusing for kids. I mean, it's just really confusing, whether they're teens or young adults or whatever. So there's no right or wrong way to do boundaries. You may hear from people that you need to set certain boundaries, but I really don't feel like this is the case. You know your child best, you know your situation best, and you also know you're the best expert on yourself. So figure out boundaries that you can follow through with. And again, this is a good reason to start small. I wouldn't push the largest boundaries or consequences out at the beginning, especially save those if you need to use them for down the road. But the best thing is to start small and to feel like whatever boundary or consequence you've set, you will follow through with. And then the fourth idea is just that the consequence is appropriate for the behavior. You don't want your consequence to be too heavy or too, easy either. You want it to be fair. And that's a good way, that's another reason why brainstorming with your child can be helpful, because you can both come up with the list together and your child kind of has worked through the process with you. And so they agree that they, this is the consequence for this kind of behavior, that kind of thing. And even though they don't like it, I think if it's a fair consequence, you're going to get less pushback than if it's really a harsh consequence for something that they don't feel, they feel that's a little too heavy-handed. Or if there's no consequence for something, they're going to feel like, well, I can do that again because there's no consequence for it. So it needs to be kind of in the middle ground. And then the fourth idea is just to keep in mind that threats are not helpful. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, we can throw out threats or say things that we just feel like, because we're so emotional and we're so upset about the whole issue, so that we can throw out threats that really we don't mean. Not so helpful, because it's usually not really appropriate to the behavior. You haven't thought it through. It's coming from the heat of the moment when you're in an emotional situation. So it's really better, again, to think about boundaries and consequences ahead of time, to plan them out, again, with your partner, with your spouse, even with your child, if you feel that's going to be work for you. And these are things that can really help with the boundaries and the consequences. So I hope you found this helpful. Do let us know in the comments if you had boundaries or consequences that worked for you and how you handled it and what helped and what didn't. If you like this video, I'd so much appreciate it if you would give it a like and subscribe. That really helps, on these videos to grow. And again, I want to thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. I know it's very difficult to have a child who is struggling with substance use. So I hope you can find some things here that can be helpful. And if you are, again, a parent, know that there is hope for your child. There are millions in recovery. Many children have gone on to find recovery. They've changed their lives. They're living in a much better place now. So don't give up hope. Your child can be there too. Until next time, take care. Bye.